Hey guys, welcome back to Wentworth Life, the YouTube channel that talks all about Wentworth. Now, if you're new to the channel, then please hit that subscribe button for all future updates. All my social media links are underneath this video, and as usual, if you stick around until the end of this video, I will be responding to some of your lovely comments. Right then, so in today's video, I am going to be taking a look at some of the villains in Wentworth and comparing them into a top 10 lists. I'm going to be looking at how evil some of these characters have been and trying to score them up on the level of how villainous they have been throughout their time on Wentworth. So get yourselves comfy and let's take a look at the top 10 villains in Wentworth. Number 10, Anne Reynolds. Starting off this list with a character that I don't particularly like. Some villains in Wentworth you really enjoy on the screen, but others you just can't stand, and Anne Reynolds was one of those characters for me. Arriving in Season 8, Anne was the new general manager who had been sent to Wentworth to clean up after the siege. However, Anne Reynolds, she ended up bringing in tough measures for the women, and she was really unpopular with most of her officers because she was just awful to them. She clashed with Governor Will Jackson, but I think her biggest clash was with terrorist Judy Bryant. Anne did cross the line on many occasions, including the time when she beat up Judy with a baton. There was also the time where Anne had Judy tied up to a punishment bench. But I think one of the most shocking things that Anne did was to try and kill Vera Bennett. She clearly had some mental health issues, and in a dark and twisted moment, Anne ended up attacking Vera and tried to strangle her to death just after the bomb had gone off in Wentworth. If it wasn't for Joan Ferguson arriving on the scene, then Anne probably would have got away with it. Number 9, Judy Bryant. Another character now who I literally just could not stand. Judy also arrived in Season 8, and as I just mentioned, Judy did end up clashing with Anne Reynolds. Now when Judy first arrived, we weren't sure if Judy was a terrorist or not. But by the end of Season 8 Part 1, everything was revealed, after Judy stabs Ali in the shower block, paralysing Ali for life. Later on, when Ali learned that it was Judy who attacked her, Judy tried to finish off the job, but luckily Boomer, Ruby and Rita were all on hand. Judy was quite a manipulator who caused a lot of trouble behind the scenes in Wentworth, and I can even remember the time when Judy slapped Ali in the face while she was high on acids. Like, you just don't do that to your top dog. She was an absolutely despicable character, and I was just so happy that she got killed off in the final episode. Number 8, Jessica Wagner. Here now we have another character who started off in the show as someone who just pretended that she was just this innocent little harmless character. However, this is Wentworth, and it wasn't long before we all learned just how dangerous Jess Wagner was. She had this very odd fascination with babies. In one scene in Season 2, we see Jess crying in the library while she's looking at photos of babies. She then took an unhealthy interest in Doreen when she was pregnant, and once Doreen had given birth to baby Joshua, Jess schemed to try and get Joshua away from Doreen by slipping drugs into her coffee. Eventually, Jess kidnapped Joshua and tried to smother him to death. And this is when we learned that this wasn't the first time Jess had actually done this, because she had already done the same thing to another baby called Madison. Luckily, Joan arrived on the scene and saved the day, but it's scary to think that there are actually people like this out there in the real world. Number 7, Mari Winter. Now, Mari wasn't always a villain in the show. However, when she first arrived, she did start off as a villain. She had history with both Kaz and Ali, and of course Mari and Kaz clashed, resulting in a showdown in the laundry, and of course there was the cell bombing where Kaz tried to blow up Mari. But it was in season 7 when Mari really upped her villainous side. We learned that Mari had someone protecting her, but this person was only protecting her because Mari had a secret file on this person, revealing that the person was high up in government and was a paedophile. After Kaz was murdered, Mari was high up on the list of suspects, especially when she became top dog not long afterwards. Mari also tried to kill Ruby on multiple occasions, but the worst thing that Mari was involved in was a huge siege that happened in the prison. Now, she may not have been the person who orchestrated the siege or pulled the trigger, but it did happen due to her wanting to escape. She was a master manipulator, and even in season 8, it was hard to tell when Mari was being genuine or not, but either way, I always found Mari to be a fascinating character. Number 6, Jacqueline Holt. The original Wentworth baddie now in our next spot, and Jacqueline, she was an old timer in Wentworth who was top dog for 7 years when Wentworth first started. Jax was one of those top dogs who run fear into the prison. She wasn't afraid to set her crew onto any woman who crosses her, including B. Smith, who tried to stand up to Jax at one point. There was a scene where Jax and her crew were going to gang Frankie. Now luckily Boomer and the girls were there to rescue her, but just before it happened, we learnt from Liz that Jax had another prisoner called Sally Lee gang raped, and Liz was forced to watch this unfold, and it wasn't long after that where Sally hung herself. There was also another time when Jax poured a full kettle of hot water over inmate Tony, which to this day makes me squirm whenever I see that scene. But I think one of the worst things that Jax ever did on screen was order the death of B's daughter Debbie. There was literally no reason for Jax to do this, but she did it anyway out of pure spite. She was a real baddie, but once again, it was kind of fascinating watching her on screen and seeing how much more evil she could get, but it was even more satisfying when Jax finally got her comeuppance. Number 5, Juicy Lucy. A character who you wouldn't want to share a cell with now in our next spot. Juice was the head of the boys in the prison. Basically, they were a group of women who went around sexually abusing the other inmates, particularly new inmates who were young, and they had no crew to protect them. Juice was involved in a lot of intense scenes in the shower block. There was the time when her and a gang attacked Liz and daughter Sophie. There's also the time when they threw a very heavily pregnant Doreen onto the floor. And of course, there is that shocking moment when Juice and the crew gang raped Ferguson in a really brutal scene. They also beat up Sonia Stevens, which left her in a wheelchair for a little while. There wasn't much that Juice wouldn't stoop to. After Juicy Lucy lost her tongue, she did return in season 6 where she remained as a mute character, but she eventually disappeared when Wentworth returned in season 7 and she was never heard of again. Number 4, Sonia Stevens. When Sonia first arrived in Wentworth, she was a woman of mystery, accused of murdering her best friend Helen and hiding the body. We were left wondering, was Sonia really guilty? By season 5, this question was answered with a resounding yes. Not only that, but Sonia had also murdered her husband. The body count doesn't end there though, because in season 6, Sonia also murdered inmate Sharon Gilmore, thinking that it was Liz. Sonia was this crazy character who was obsessed with killing people. She really enjoyed it, and she used to lick her lips every time she was about to kill someone, like she was some sort of crazy vampire. She was great to watch on screen, apart from the few times when she was being really evil to Liz. I always remember the scene where Joan Ferguson was being hanged on the basketball hoop. Sonia was loving every moment of it. It's such a busy scene with lots going on, but I can remember focusing on Sonia when all the women were going nuts, and Sonia was literally loving life right there and then. She's so messed up, but she really does deserve a spot on this list. Number 3, Sean Brody. A real evil officer now, and Sean Brody was one of those characters where he pretty much backed himself into an impossible corner, and that's when he became very dangerous. He arrived in season 7, episode 3, and I'll be honest with you all, it was nice to have some new fresh eye candy on the show, but it wasn't long before we learned that Sean was bad news. Not only did he make a fake report of sexual harassment against Jake Stewart and almost blackmailed him into sex, he also murdered Kaz Proctor. He then tried to break up Mari Winter, took the prison hostage, he ended up killing Costa and Mae Jenkins. He's not the sort of guy who you'd want to take home and meet grandma. I dread to think what other things Sean did in the other prison that he worked in, because he was literally capable of anything. Face of an angel but the heart of a devil. Number 2, Lou Kelly. Lou Kelly might have been late to the Wentworth party, but she made up for it in these 2 final seasons of Wentworth. Lou, in my opinion, was a fantastic addition to the show. She was fearless and extremely dangerous. If I was to ever end up in prison, I would want to be Lou Kelly's friend and not her enemy, because Lou has a few special ways of dealing with her enemies, and one of those is to chop off fingers, earning Lou the nickname Fingers Kelly. In her first episode on Wentworth, she punched Boomer to the floor and stuck a plastic bag over her head and made Boomer wet herself in fear. She also tries to kill Ruby in the shower block at one point, and she throttled Mari half a dozen times. She even bullied Joan Ferguson when Joan was going through her Kath Maxwell phase. She then went on to murder Sheila after Sheila had killed Reb. She then declared herself top dog, shivved Boomer in a fight, threatened Ali in a wheelchair on multiple occasions, dunked Judy Bryant in a bin of water, although I'm completely cool with that one. But the biggest and most shocking thing that Lou Kelly did is organise a bomb to be delivered to Wentworth with the intention to pretty much kill everyone in that prison. Despite all her evil actions on the show, we did manage to see a different side to Lou Kelly when she was with her lover Reb Keane. I always think it's a shame that Lou was introduced so late into the series. I would have loved for Lou to have appeared in more seasons where we could have learned more about her backstory and her history. I don't know, maybe somebody will write a book about Lou Kelly one day, you never know. But like I said, she may have been late to the Wentworth party, but she definitely kept us on the edge of our seats. Number 1, Joan Ferguson. You probably guessed that Joan would be at my number 1 spot before you even clicked on this video. Joan was definitely Wentworth's most villainous character ever, starting off as governor before turning into a prisoner and then losing her memory and becoming Kath Maxwell. Joan Ferguson definitely went on some crazy journeys. A master manipulator with both the women and the officers. Some of the things that she did include torturing Jodie Spiteri, hotshotting Simone and Ali, having Mr. Fletcher run over, murdering B. Smith, chopping off Juicy Lucy's tongue, ripping out Eve's eyeball, and wait, there's more. She also killed Amanda Farrar by snapping her neck, and she did exactly the same thing to Anne Reynolds in the final episode. The list is endless. Joan Ferguson was one hell of a character, and she was fascinating to watch on screen. She definitely deserves to be at my number 1 spot today, and Wentworth definitely wouldn't have been the same show without her. And that was my top 10 villains on Wentworth. So guys, do you agree with my number 1 spot? Do you think Joan was Wentworth's biggest villain, or did someone else deserve that spot? Let me know. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below. And on that note, let's jump into some comment replies. Michelle82478, I liked all the characters you picked. You already know who my favourite is, my precious baby love, Lou Kelly. B. Smith was the best character. I would have loved to see her live in the prison as a former top dog. Like, how would life have been for her in there without having that title? Yes, Michelle, I'm totally with you on that. I think we've chatted about this before, but I would have loved to have seen how Bea would have been like as a character in season 5 if she had survived that stabbing, and seen her friendship grow with Kaz, because I always believed that they came to a really good understanding just before Bea was killed off. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I wish that we could have got just one more season with Bea, Ali and Kaz together, but under a different scenario. It would have been so interesting. Thank you for your comment, Michelle, and I'm looking forward to your new videos as well. Jason Wiley, hey Craig, seeing as Wentworth is now over, how about reviewing prison movies? There's some real classics out there. Well, hey Jason, hope you are well. I'm definitely open to doing some reviews on different prison shows or prison movies even, but that's only if you guys would be up for that as well. I mean, this channel is mainly about Wentworth, but I am really happy to review other prison shows, totally. So it's up to you guys. If that's something that you'd like to see me do, maybe do a bit of reviewing of Bad Girls or even Prisoner or prison movies, just let me know in the comments box below. Thank you for your comment, Jason. Fasten Songs. Really hope you come around to doing a Wentworth Bomb Aftermath fan fiction. Yes, Fasten Songs. Well, don't worry, I haven't forgotten. I've been working on a season 10 fan fiction. In fact, I'll give you a little preview. So when Wentworth returns for season 10, it is 3 months later, and most of Wentworth has been rebuilt. All of the H-Block girls have been in Barnhurst for 3 months, and Lou Kelly has been segregated for 3 full months away from everyone. So all the women are returned to Wentworth, and Lou is putting the bomb plot all onto Judy. However, Judy's father is determined to actually nail Lou. The minister is furious by what has been going on, and he wants things sorted out once and for all. Vera is now the new general manager, and Will is still governor. Vera brings back Bridget because the minister wants a full diagnosis on Lou Kelly. In fact, the minister is quite happy to send Lou to the nut house, but Lou has also got her own solicitor on the case. Will Bridget be able to get through to Lou Kelly? It's gonna get pretty messy, but Lou is gonna go on a crazy journey. Rita Connors is now top dog, however, she hasn't proved herself to all of the women yet, and the women want Rita to take full revenge on Lou Kelly for what she did in the bomb plot. Ruby is still in prison, but it's looking hopeful because Detective Jonesy has been arrested and he is now in a male prison. Of course, Rita still has those charges where she beat Drago to death, so Rita is still looking at a stretch in prison, but it's not as bad as she thought it was gonna be. However, there's quite a few twists and turns. There will be a new officer called Janet Latham, who is a red-headed officer, very feisty with some big, huge secrets, who also takes a little bit of a fancy to Lou Kelly. Boomer will have her 3-month scan in the very first episode of season 10, and she's going to be having a very interesting pregnancy journey. Ali is going to be getting a visit from a very old friend called Sandy Edwards. She's also been in prison, but she's been in a different prison. She's been in Blackmore. But Sandy and Ali are very good old friends who also connected through Red Right Hand, and of course Sandy will be a main character in season 10. Most of the people think Joan Ferguson is dead, however, a body was never really resumed, and there will be a new character who does eventually come into season 10, and trust me, this person makes Joan Ferguson look like Snow White. There will be a huge daring escape attempt and somebody will go on the run for a little bit, but we will follow this character on the outside at the same time. It's pretty much mental insane, and it's how I think they could have gone if we had one more season. It's going to be really interesting, a few shocks, and there will be a shocking death as well that you will not expect. But I'm about halfway through putting this fanfiction together, and I want to make sure I get it perfect before I start filming the videos. But trust me guys, it's definitely going to be worth the wait. Thank you for your comment, and once again, I have to thank every single one of you for your amazing comments that keep coming through on a daily basis. Every single one of them gets read, and I try to respond to as many as I can. So keep those comments coming, and maybe next time your comment will feature in one of my videos. Okay guys, that's all I have for you today. Make sure you smash that subscribe button because another new video will be coming out on Monday, and you will not want to miss it. So thank you for watching everyone. I'll see you all again very soon.